We need a theme for today's story. So, is there anyone who will shout out a title for a new story?
Riverboat ride.
Okay, Caroline, that sounds good. And since you were good enough to supply that, please begin to tell us a story about a riverboat ride.
It was a dark and stormy night, and the river was raging, and waves were going up very high. And a riverboat man had his poor little riverboat. He was trying to paddle down this stream, and it was a river, not a stream. And the boat was not doing well. And it listed to one side and to the other. And then he heard the cry of wolves on the side. And he thought, what are we going to do? We have to stay on the water, and my boat might not make it. So he looked around, he saw wolves on the edge of the bank. He thought, I'll look at the other bank. And he did. And he saw more wolves, and he didn't know what to do. So a gust of wind came and pushed them further on. And he looked up at the sky and he said, Thor, don't send any more rain or thunderbolts. Just let us get out of here. And he tried, and the wind kept going, and it was howling.
Stop. Hilla, you look excited to continue.
And the riverboat captain grumbled and grumbled, and he yelled at his first mate to take the wheel, and he went to the passenger seats, and he hauled up a rather sodden bard by her neck and said, Hilla, I told you not to sing. Go get the fish harness. Hilla stood up and went to the bow and got the fish harness. It was a ginormous contraption of leather and iron and puppy tears. And she trundled up to the front of the boat, glaring at the captain, and said, You pray to Thor and you yell at me. How is this fair? And she spied into the water and said, Here, fishy, 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 fishy.
Tegan, take up the story from here.
The waters were no happier with Hilla than the captain. They heard, Here, fishy, 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 and said in reply, Release the Kraken. And one tentacle reached above the water, and a second tentacle reached above the water. But they made a mistake. It was a baby kraken, and it slipped one arm into the harness, and another arm into the harness, and began to slowly paddle forward, dragging the ship as best it could with its tiny tentacles. And then it realized it's far more efficient to go like this and turn the tentacles backwards. And it swam right over the dam.
Over the dam.
Kateryn.
And once it swam over the dam, the riverboat captain looked ahead and saw someone on a dock holding a lantern. And so he sort of steered the Kraken over to the dock. And there was one more passenger to be picked up. And this passenger was cloaked and hooded. And as he stepped aboard, he extended a hand with the payment, and the captain noted the hand was skeletal. And the baby Kraken started whimpering. And the captain shooed the fish on, the baby Kraken on, who started crying.
Tegan.
Sadly, the Kraken slipped one arm out of the harness and the other arm and swam away, its tears making the river just that much higher. Meanwhile, Hilla looked over at the dock.
Fine. Meanwhile, Hilla looked over at
We didn't hear who you called.
Caroline.
Oh, looked over and he didn't see what he wanted to see. So he kept saying, "We need the baby Kraken back again." So he's going, "Here, fishy, fishy, fishy." But it won't work this time because the baby Kraken is pissed. He's just really angry. So he's not going to come back. And he's telling all of his friends, don't listen to him. He's a mean man. He's going to make that boat sink.
Kateryn.
So the man said, "You don't need the fish. The boat will go wherever I point my lantern." And sure enough, through the storm, the boat just kept going wherever the skeletal hand
Hilla.
held the lantern.
And Hilla watched this with amazement and said, "Ah, I thought you had your own ferryman to do this, Death. But I see that you are the ferryman. I am impressed with you." And so I sat down beside Death and reached into my pocket and pulled out a flagon of mead. And I handed it out to Death and said,
Tegan.
Me? Death eyed the flagon, reached one bony hand forward and took it in his grasp.
Caroline.
Took it in his grasp, but his bony fingers were gnarled more than mine, and it couldn't hold on and plopped back in the water. And they thought, all must be lost. And they heard the wolves on the side still baying. And they
Hilla.
realized,
and Hilla looked at Death, sighed, and dove into the water because that is my best mead, damn it.
Kateryn, can you bring us a moral of the story?
Yes. So after Hilla went in, the figure, the passenger, bowed to the riverboat captain and said, "Thank you. I now have what I came for." Safe journeys. Dove in after the water, and neither he nor Hilla were ever seen again. Thank you.
way to kill her off, I tell you.
That was
Killed on
incredible.
like it myself in a story before. That was awesome.
Yeah, you dove into a storm-filled water with death on board. What did you expect to happen?
And no sushi, no sushi.